Greetings and thanks to the Democratic Party and the Republican Party for putting this on tonight, and thanks to all of you for being here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kathy-Chandler-Henry. I'm your County Commissioner for District 2. I'm a native of Eagle County and I'm a fourth-generation Coloradan. We moved back when our kids were small to raise them here in this great county. My mom's here in the audience. It's her grandmother who came across to Colorado in a covered wagon. I have a background in higher education, data analysis and research, and public service. What I believe I have to offer you is some depth and breadth in knowing about issues in the county. From working with nonprofits to working in higher education, as a research director for the Economic Council and as your county commissioner, I've been involved in the discussions about the future of Eagle County, the problem solving, and the strategic planning. So why am I running in 2014? I believe it comes down to the quality of life. It's what's brought us here, and it's why we stay. It's the clean air and water. It's the bright stars that we can see in our night sky. It's the wilderness, the recreation opportunities, the world-class cultural and athletic events that we are privy to. In every community survey and in every conversation I have with all of you, that's what matters to you and that's what's important. Those are my values too. I value public service, I value those quality of life issues, and I believe the job of a county commissioner is a really critical one. It's close to the people, there's budget to do what you all want to do, and it's where we can make the biggest difference. In the past year, I've learned that dealing with these challenges is best served when we stay close to those values that we have. I'm looking forward to the conversation with you all tonight.
Thank you. Courtney?
I'm Courtney Holm. I'm running for County Commissioner for District 2. I want to thank everyone that's come out this evening for this debate. Good political discourse doesn't happen unless people attend, and thanks very much for both of the parties to getting together and arranging this. I'm a Vail native as well. My mother's also here in the audience, and my goal for Eagle County is this. Eagle County is an amazing place, whether you were born here, whether you arrived here, whether you stayed here because you had a flat tire. It's beautiful, and the only way that we're going to keep this place beautiful and running well is to invigorate this economy, and I believe that our county commissioners are the key to that. We have disjointed communication between all of our municipalities and all of our entities, and we need to have somebody that becomes that glue and acts more proactively. I have been an attorney for 12 years. I'm a mediator where I take on the cases to settle people's disputes, so I am solution-oriented. And I try to find the best solutions, synthesize the information, and figure out what's going to work for each situation. Eagle County is a very special place because we have so many diverse needs, diverse wants, and if you're elected, you don't represent just the people that elected you. You represent the entire county and look for everybody's needs. And that also includes some of the needs that we have with visitors and tourism, because with Eagle County, that's our major bread and butter at the moment. And at this point, Eagle County needs to have a tightening belt, a forward-thinking direction, and have long-term range goals, and have proactive commissioners that are communicating more thoroughly with our state senators, with our state House of Representatives, and fighting for the rights and the needs of our people here in Eagle County. And I would like to do that for this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. I'm going to go ahead and repeat the first question, Kathy. It's probably a good thing my mom's not in the audience tonight to see me have to do that. But now that property values in the county are rebounding and higher assessments and tax revenues are likely forthcoming, what new or existing county services do you see as most deserving of additional spending?
Thanks for that question. It's a good one, and I think that there is a little confusion out there. The cities are increasing in sales tax, especially the Upper Valley towns such as Vail. The county is not yet back to where we were in 2008. So expenses continue to rise because of increasing costs, especially in the construction area, but our revenues still haven't caught up. We expect them to over the next few years, but we are not looking at any increased spending at this time. We're still looking at trying to hold the line. One of the things that we have done in the past year and a half is a risk assessment to figure out how much reserves do we need. That had been about $5 million was the reserve figure in the past. During the past year since I've been county commissioner, we've increased that to $14 million. That's just in the general fund. All of the other funds have reserves as well, and the general fund actually has more than that. But I wouldn't be looking at increased spending right now. I would be looking at trying to do what we can to make our economy more vital. We lost about 6,000 jobs in the recession in the construction and real estate industry. That can't be our bread and butter anymore. Tourism is obviously our economic driver, but we need to diversify into areas such as healthcare. We have a lot of lone eagles who can work from home. They can work from anywhere. They can bring their businesses to Eagle County and be a good match with our natural environment here and those economic and environmental values we cherish. So I think that working with private partners such as Vail Valley Partnership on our economic plan, holding the line on our reserves, and trying to diversify our economy is how we can best serve our citizens.
Courtney, your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts, when you look at Eagle County over the last several years, obviously there was a dip in a recession in 2007, and I see some concerning trends still in this time. So with the original workforce that we had in Eagle County, right now we have about 424 individuals that are employed by Eagle County in 2013. And we had dropped from 2009 to 2011 that number of people working for Eagle County to about 11% drop. And in that time period, we were still able to address the needs of the county and provide the services. So my view is just because money might be coming back into the coffers, I don't think that's the time where you start saying, well, let's start spending it. I think you need to be conservative and look forward and say we need to save money in the reserves. And right now, Kathy was speaking about the cash reserves. The reserves in other counties surrounding us, like for example, Garfield, they keep theirs at 115%. Ours is only at 101% right now. So the way that works is if you have a wildfire suddenly, and you had to pay $1 million out, you'd have to pay that back within 180 days because of Tabor, and that would come out of the general fund. So you have to always be looking at how do you make this more efficient, how do you make this more economic, and how do you make the services available to the county without increasing spending and budget. As well as invigorating this economy, I think that part of that is also cooperating and coordinating with all the other towns and municipalities and using the entities that are already out there. So in invigorating an economy, when we're talking about a place where we had construction, we also had 300 businesses closed. We have businesses that are still closing. So I think that even though property values are coming up, this is still a really tough time for a lot of people. And it's not necessarily a time where people are going to start having a lot of reserves in their own accounts. So we need to be very thoughtful and mindful of how do we deliver the needs to the county without doing it in an expensive way, and to do it working smarter, not harder.
Courtney, my question goes to you first. If you believe strongly in an issue and your constituency strongly disagreed, how would you resolve that conflict?
Let me just make sure I understood the question appropriately.
Yeah.
If I have an issue where I strongly believe
Let me repeat it. If you believe strongly in an issue and your constituency strongly disagreed, how would you resolve that conflict?
Well, Ron, since you're also a lawyer, you probably are familiar with this, that you're able to compartmentalize things. And having been an attorney for so many years, there are very often times where I'm making decisions based on something that might be contradictory to my own values or my own thoughts. But I'm always looking out for the best interests of what my client needs or what the outcome's going to be. So the way that works is you've got to look at the greater good in some instances. And I spoke about how Eagle County has a very diverse and different population. The needs of people that live in McCoy is very different than the needs of people that live in Basalt, very different from those in Red Cliff, from Vail. Everybody has different needs, wants, goals, and within those same communities, obviously not everybody can always agree on where they're going to go and have dinner. So sometimes somebody's got to look and say, what's the long-term effect of this? So if I had an issue that I very strongly believed in, I'm still looking out for what the county needs. I'm looking out for what the long-term needs are of the county, and I'm looking at cost-benefit analysis. I'm looking at how does this affect us consequentially with our relationships with other counties? How does this affect us consequentially with our water rights or any agreements that we might have with an interstate compact, with a front-range diversion, with anything like that? So I think that you have to make decisions very carefully, and you have to weigh all the pluses and minuses. And I think the way that you do that is you take information, and you don't just sit and wait to see what people bring in front of you. If you have people that come and present something, you do a little bit of research on your own. You go out and visit the sites. You go and figure out if it's something that you're not familiar with, if it's something that involves fracking or something that you don't see every day in your backyard. Then you need to go out and learn exactly what you're dealing with so you can make the proper choice for the county. And I recognize that not everybody's always going to find every decision to be the perfect decision, but you're going to like some of them and you're going to like others better. But at some point, everybody's got to have a decision that works for them.
I'm sure I speak for Greg as well. If either of you at any point between answers need us to repeat the question, please ask us. Kathy?
Thank you. Thank you, Ron. I just wanted to make a quick clarification about Tabor reserves. The county has $2.5 million in Tabor reserves, and that is required to be a separate fund from the general fund, so that's in addition to reserves. I, too, am a big fan of doing your homework. I believe that more information is always better. I think that when there is a difference of opinion, sometimes it's a matter of a lack of shared knowledge base. Sometimes it's a value difference. I also believe that the community and groups have the wisdom and the ability to come up with a good solution. So what I do when there are differences and when maybe what I'm thinking is the best direction is different than the constituents, it calls for sitting down, it calls for sharing information, doing some of that research, finding the information that you don't have, and coming to a joint solution. The other piece of the puzzle is that no commissioner acts alone. There are two other commissioners who are part of the decision-making process. The county has some great staff. It's a collaborative work to come to the best decision, to reflect, and to talk to the constituents. We do a lot of work with our partner towns. The Eagle River Valley is one big regional economic engine. The Roaring Fork Valley is part of the Pitkin County area. So we work collaboratively with Pitkin County, Garfield County, with all of our towns. There are often differences of opinion. They usually can be resolved by sharing information and getting to what's the vision, what are our values, what's the best way to get there.
Kathy, I'll start this one with you. What ideas do you have to resolve or to present solutions for the I-70 problem?
All right, I'm going to tell you in 30 seconds and then I'll make $1 million, right? That is a conundrum that's been studied forever. Anybody who's been on I-70 in the winter knows what a disaster it is, and we feel what a problem it is for our economy when folks are stuck on Vail Pass. If we have flights into the Eagle Airport and they can get here and get where they're going, then that's a bonus to us. So there's some direction to pay attention to our airport. Solving I-70, paving more, I don't think is the solution. Monorails are very expensive. There's some creative ideas out there, such as trying to do the pilot car approaches. That saved CDOT a lot of closures by having a pilot car take cars up in groups. Regulating when the trucks can go. They can't be stopped from crossing the passes because that is against Interstate Commerce Clause. But they can go at certain times, try and keep them off of the roads during the high traffic times. I think another big piece is public education. CDOT's done a good job of that, letting folks know when it's likely to be crowded, when it's not. Getting to work with the rental car companies, getting some good snow tires on those cars and helping drivers who don't know how to drive in our area get some information about that. I met with the State Patrol last week. They said sometimes drivers get out of their car, get into the State Patrol car and say, that's it, I'm not getting back in my car. Do whatever you need to do, but that's it for me. So it's a regional solution. I don't have the answer. I think there are lots of little things we can do that might make a difference. Working with the resorts and with the Colorado Association of Ski Towns is something we're discussing also.
Courtney?
Well, I do have a magic solution. No. But I think that the magic is the solution is that when I'm talking about discussing things and having commissioners sitting there and really advocating for your citizens and really getting in there, we have a lot of things that come to us from the Front Range. I-70 is the conduit that brings visitors. Also, we have, the airport that also brings them. But when I-70 is closed, you're losing money to our businesses. Your friends and family can't come and stay. It makes it more than just an inconvenience. It's an economic detriment, and as that continues to decrease in efficiency, you're going to have people that start saying, I don't want to go down there because I can get off at these other places and stop earlier. So you really have to work not just on a local level, regional level. I think you need to be involved with the state legislature. You need to start having sit-downs with the governor and saying, look, this is important. This is something where we need to have everybody come together and figure out better solutions to it, because at the end of the day, if you don't have an ability for people to travel here, or even if you're a resident and you say, I want to go down to a Broncos game, and you can't leave at 2 p.m., you got to leave at 9 a.m. just so you can get down there, that affects a lot of different issues within anybody's day-to-day issues. So I think that you have to look at creative solutions, not just coming up with a plan, because there's plans in place now for when truckers don't have chains on their trucks and stop the pass. They get charged phenomenal amounts and it doesn't stop anything. So I think that it has to be a much larger scale cooperative effort. And thinking along those lines as well, I-70 is not the only problem. We've got a lot of public safety issues here within our own transportation issues, with our pedestrian connectivity, with pedestrians getting hit because there's not a lot of lighting on the street at nights. So I would view that as one of the major issues that we need to work together and really deal with for our citizens.
This is a question from the audience, and I believe I address it to Courtney first. Do you believe the recent National Forest Road closures have had a positive or negative effect on the county?
Positive or negative effect? I guess it depends on what position you're sitting from. So depending on where you're situated and how you were affected, closing of any kind of access with forest roads is an effective inability to access public lands. I don't know if people realize, but in Eagle County, we've got about 80% of our land is publicly owned and run by the Forest Service or BLM. And the general access to, for lack of a better term, these activities and great outdoors, when that gets removed, you essentially have an inability for your citizens to enjoy and access the reason why they live here. Now, additionally, if you're an individual property owner and that puts something where people weren't coming through your land, then you probably are very happy with it. But as far as any kind of closed access for Eagle County residents, it becomes a real issue, because these are things that people have grown up dealing with and experiencing for many, many years, and suddenly it changes your position.
Kathy, your thoughts?
The U.S. Forest Service has been faced with some of the same budget issues that face all of us. I think theirs have been magnified. Some of the road closure issues have to do with lack of maintenance, lack of funding to take care of roads. So it's like Courtney stated, it depends on which road it is and which side of the road you're on. But I know that some of the closures have to do with public safety issues, and they're not able to maintain those. There's a road that goes from Sylvan Lake over to Rudai on the Roaring Fork side of the county that has a portion of that road that is Forest Service. Goes around Narrows by the fish hatchery. If any of you have ever been there, it can be a little dicey. It's not a closure issue, but it's a funding issue. That's part of it with the Forest Service. We, with our trust of public lands for the whole country, we really value these lands. We value the ability to get out to those. Folks who are not able-bodied value the ability to get out in a car or a vehicle. So as much as we can keep open roads, that aren't sensitive to environmental damage, I think that's what we should do. As much as we can exert local control from the county over issues that affect our county, I believe that that's what we should do. But we need to look on a case-by-case basis to see whether it's an environmentally sensitive area or some other reason that it's closed. We want people to be in the great outdoors. That's why we're here. We want to access our forests and love it wisely.
The next question I'll direct to Kathy first. What changes, if any, would you like to see the county's open space program? And specifically, do you believe public access should be a requirement for any open space purchases?
Thank you for that question. I think open space is a great topic of discussion in our county, and one that we'll be having more about. The open space tax sunsets in 2024. It's a $1.5 mil property tax right now, generates about $4.5 million a year in funding that can be used for open space. You're asking whether or not access should be required to get to open space. I think the best answer to that is to say that open space should be a broad portfolio. It shouldn't be all one thing. The way the open space tax was written is that it includes agricultural lands, it includes open areas that have good wildlife values, and it includes lands that can have some good recreational value. In the past 2 or 3 years, we have purchased about 8 miles of river frontage with our open space lands. Those have boat ramps, those have great public access to them. Some of the properties, the preserve in Edwards is a good public access place. Most of the recent purchases do. The early purchases, which is the ones that still rile people up the most, the Bear Ranch, the Gates Ranch, those don't have public access. Those meet some of the other values in the public space requirements. What we have in place now that I think will help us navigate these waters is the Open Space Advisory Council. It's a citizens group appointed by the county commissioners, and they are entrusted in talking to all of you and making recommendations to the commissioners about how to spend money and about what's most important. Is access most important? Is livestock values, wildlife values the most important? Is river access the most important?
Courtney?
Well, open space is obviously a touchy topic for a lot of people in Eagle County. It didn't pass overwhelmingly. It was a very close vote, and there are a lot of people that have asked to have it go back to the voters. What I hear most consistently from people regarding open space is that they don't want the county to spend money on people's individual homesteads. They don't want people to spend money on individual barns. They want people to spend, if there's going to be money in the open space fund and it's going to be purchased for the Eagle County, I resoundingly hear people say that it needs to be accessible. And I think that is an accurate description of what many people feel open space needs to be. Now, I'm not necessarily opposed to if the voters want that to go back out to see what the new parameters are. I'm not opposed to putting that up to the voters, to having them decide whether or not they want to continue with that program. But it's had a lot of different facelifts over the years, and at this point, right now it really needs to be focusing on accessible, usable open space, because there's a lot of frustration with people that are having a hard time and having foreclosures and losing their house, and our unemployment rates at, what are we at now, 6.6%, which is still maybe 4% higher than what it was in 2007. And that's a major issue when people are still trying to tighten their belts as far as money that's coming out of the open space fund. And it's a separate fund. I don't know if everybody realizes that it's not part of the general fund, but those have to be really deliberate choices. I know that they are looking at trying to make some different purchases, but many of these purchases have had a lot of public outcry. And there's a big difference between a boat ramp and having people being able to access the river and having a fishing spot or a take-in or a put-in and a take-out versus a ranch that nobody can access or watch or really even go near. So I think there needs to be a real strict look at open space at this point.
And Kathy, since you did have the first word in the opening comments, we're going to give Courtney the last word and would ask you to do your 2-minute closing.
Commissioners get their statutory authority from the Colorado Constitution. They have administrative, budgeting, policymaking, and quasi-judicial functions. In the end, it comes down to this. Commissioners need to safeguard the public money, they need to care about public safety and welfare, and they need to protect and enhance the qualities of life that are so dear to all of us. Some accomplishments I'm most proud of in the last year are the increase in our budget reserves, the completion of the county's role in the Castle Peak Senior Care Center, the creation of a strong economic development plan, working collaboratively with our towns and their neighboring counties, and developing strong private partnerships for many of our county projects. There's a John Ruskin quote I like a lot, and one that sums up my belief about public service. What we think, or what we know, or what we say, or what we believe has little consequence. The only thing of consequence is what we do. And what I will do is continue to work hard for you. I always do my homework. I try to be a good listener, a clear thinker, and a good analyst. Two of my most important attributes, I believe, are the ability to synthesize a lot of information down to the heart of what's important, and the ability to find common ground to bring people together. I thank you all for attending tonight and exercising your role as citizens in this great public process of ours. I am really excited about elections and about democracy in action, and seeing all of you here tonight just reaffirms the faith that I have in our democratic process. And as you make your decisions for the coming election, I ask you to consider my experience and my passion for public service, and to contact me with any ideas or any questions you have. I would be honored to have your vote and your support in this election.
Thank you, Kathy. Courtney?
Certainly. I'm passionate about Eagle County. I grew up here. I returned here to have my professional life and be close to my family. This is an important place for me, like it is for everybody else here. I want to see it thrive. I want to see it flourish. I want people in the state of Colorado to look and say, Eagle County is the best county. We all know it is, but I want to make sure that they can see that that's what's happening with Eagle County. And I think the key to that is that we need to look on a broad scale. There needs to be some significant cooperative efforts with Vail Valley Partnership, with the towns, with the very large employers like Vail Valley Medical Center. We need to invigorate our economy so that our kids, our grandkids can continue to thrive and live in this economy and can continue to flourish in this beautiful place. And we need to focus on the things and the attributes that we already have. We have a beautiful Colorado Mountain College that just got sanctioned to be a 4-year college. That's going to bring money, jobs, things, but you've got to play it right. Things don't just happen to a county just because they show up. You have to make the right decisions and get involved and look at how do you grow to the next level and how do you protect the things that you need to keep sacred and private and personal for people within this county. So I think as commissioner, I want to be there to protect your interests. I want to protect our fiscal responsibility and our money. And I want to help make the right decisions for Eagle County. And I think that the way that we do that is we look at how do we develop these personal relationships that we have already that need some furthering as far as communication between the towns, bringing more events and coordinating those events so that they're not in multiple parts of the county at the same time, drawing those dollars away from the other events. And all that needs to do is use the county commissioner's seat as the glue. This is the opportunity. Thank you.
I would ask the audience to join me in thanking our candidates for their comments tonight.